Alright guys, might as well give you the quick walk around tour of the Grand Prix, how it's sitting now. It's been, well, over a year now. And of course I couldn't leave it stock. I'm actually really liking the car because of how much availability there is for parts to go faster and just general parts for it. It's a nice break from the AMC, I guess, just to be able to go and grab some parts and go fast parts. That's the Speed Daddy hood, I believe. Although I think there's some that look just like it anyway. It's functional. My Verde rims, I got them cheap, used. Still got to get my side skirt there fixed and do something about this, but it's a daily driver. It's going through winter and all that, so couple specks of rust starting to bubble through the paint, and the rockers are not doing too great, but the strut towers are still fine. It's the same old LEDs everyone runs. ZZP 3-inch exhaust, no resonator. It splits to two 2.5-inch pipes. The stock exhaust is 2.5-inch. Nothing on the inside really. I've definitely contemplated getting some newer Grand Prix seats, but you have to wire it in manually, and I'm not sure if they get power on the new ones on the passenger seat, because this is just all manual adjustment. But problem is I got a kind of a rare option where I got gray leather, and you just can't find that at all, period. The closest you can get, I think, is like the Daytona versions of this car, and they have like Daytona embroidering and stuff, but that's like the closest you can find. So if I do put black seats, it won't match my door panels, and then I got a gray leather seat in the back too, so that kind of makes it a pain in the ass. Otherwise I probably would have been more jumping into doing that. I just kind of want my interior to match with what I got without having to swap out, you know, the whole damn interior. Of course, you got vape, like a douche. Polished shift handle. Point my fingers here. I didn't like the stock shifter, but that's another thing I like about all these cars. W bodies, so many parts interchange and just direct fit. There's a lot of other shifters that'll fit too. Some people don't like this. I like it. Feels better to fit in a hand rather than that turkey leg thing. Radar detectors. Yeah, like I said, it's just stock. I try to keep it clean. It's functional for the most part. I mean, yeah, the GM plastics are all falling apart, but that's just General Motors for you. And the headliner's falling off. Yeah, like I said, daily driver. Doesn't matter too much on this kind of car, you know. It's not like the Total Project car. Although this is a great distraction from it. Suspension wise, it is all stock and getting worn out. I'd like to be able to upgrade it, but those are pretty expensive to do. Even just the lowering springs and all that to get all the stuff to make sure it's setting right is like about $1,000. But I did get the, not Stop Tech, I think, something else. But it's like a cross-drilled, slotted, but it's the same rotor size. I originally got these as my first mod, but I didn't really plan this all out, but you could fit larger brakes from an F-body, and I would have done that had I known how far I was going to go here. But I went with these because these would fit in the stock wheel size. But now that I've already upgraded, got bigger wheels, I could have fit bigger brakes on there. At least for the front. The rear, I think, is fine. Same setup here. Just a little bit smaller, and you know, it's not like rear brakes don't work as hard. Rebuilt transmission. I'd like to get a cooler for it just to make sure it stays healthy. I do have LEDs for my front lights at least, and my rear ones have them built in. Got switchbacks in the front. You can't see them, can you? Oh. Oh, just take my word for it. I can't. Oh, you can sort of see it right there. Basically, stock, these are just amber bulbs for your turn signals, but with these switchbacks, they have a white, you know, the white bulb, but you turn your turn signal on, they switch to the amber. Just extra lighting, although the housings I got are all blacked out on this side at least, and it's not important. These ones still have the reflectors. These LEDs are kind of wonky. They don't have a very great high beam performance, but the low beam's pretty good. And there's a couple people that flash me high beams, but my friend, he drove in front of me for a while and he said it wasn't too bad. More of the rot. I did crash this car once already. I still gotta put my new plastic piece in. I'm gonna try a hood hinge. I think this one's a little bit bent. But yeah, I tore the whole quarter front bumper off. And I did manage to track down a new bumper that has matching patina to my rear bumper, because before my front bumper was pretty immaculate, all things considered. And my rear one had this clear coat fading too. So, by luck, I found a completely matching front bumper at the junkyard. But yeah, these are just blacked out headlight housings. I could have gone with the Halo ones, but everyone says they're heavier and they like to move around a lot. Because these brackets, they only got like bolt here, and then a whole cheap flimsy plastic to kind of support the whole thing. Otherwise, they're just kind of hanging in there. So I went with these. Simple. They work. This is a ZZP airbox. It's a little bit pricey, but it's probably one of the most functional ones, at least, besides, you know, the stock airbox. But this will allow you to hear the supercharger whine, at least, and that's pretty much it, other than, you know, a little bit of flash. You can see I accidentally ruined it because I got swarmed by mosquitoes one day and I sprayed a bunch of bug spray around and that happened. Lesson hard learned, so I'll probably have to get some new plexiglass in there. And although this would be a good time to maybe see if I can modify it so my ram air works. Because like I said, this is a functional ram air hood. And there was a specific air box that goes with it, with like a inlet right here and an inlet here. It's basically like a stock box, but with that extra inlet there for ram air and heat extractors too. And that's the most important bit for me, because I got headers on and these throw off a lot of heat over the engine bay, which is bad for your intake. You know, it's not perfectly sealed, and I try to fight it with this heat shield here under my throttle body. So heat extractors just help kind of ventilate heat out. These are Speed Daddy headers, by the way. I do run these C-clamps, or not C-clamp, you know what I mean. They might be leaking, but it doesn't sound like it. I know most people, they just don't even try with those anymore. As far as these go, they sort of fit. You might have problems with it hitting the AC line, you can see there. Mine kind of hits the fan once it's fully warmed up. Yeah, you can, right there, it's really close. I do have a fan spacer kit for this, but it looks like you have to take the whole radiator out anyway to fit it, so I said, nah, I'll just wait till my fan dies or something. And then the dipstick tube, it was totally in the way, and most people bend them, and I kind of got it set up to where I just turned it, and hopefully it doesn't fall out. Although I should probably see if I can rig that up in there better. A couple zip ties maybe. I almost burned out my O2 harness the other day. I smelled burning plastic, and somehow it moved and hit the header. Close call. I do got this ZZP 10.5 millimeter. You can see it says right there. Just to help get more spark energy to the spark plugs. These coils, they really don't do nothing for you. They technically are more powerful, but the stock coils will handle all the power you can throw at this engine. So this is just bling. You don't have to worry about ever getting those. You can if you want, like I did. I got them on sale, so, and my coils are bad. So I said, screw it, I'll get them. Plus, another thing about these ZZP wires is they got the angled boots, which definitely help keep the wires off the headers compared to the stock ones. So the wires are definitely worth it. These, not so much. That's up to you. The throttle body is a ported ZZP throttle body. That means it's the stock one's 69 millimeter. It was upgraded to 73, I believe it was. Most people like to throw on a North Star throttle body, but the thing is that that's so much bigger than the inlet of the Gen 3 supercharger I'm running, and I wasn't planning on swapping the supercharger anyway, because to do that you'd have to really be building a serious engine to make a supercharger swap to a Gen 5 worthwhile, in my opinion, because if you do a Gen 5 swap and then put a modular pulley on, you gotta run a larger pulley anyhow, because the Gen 5 will just put in more air naturally. It's more efficient, I guess, you could. But, I just stuck with the Gen 3 and gave it a port throttle body that matches the inlet of it already. Because otherwise, larger throttle body, you'd have to port this or get a larger supercharger, which means just bigger pulley if you're leaving the rest of the engine stock anyhow, like I'm doing. So that's my logic behind that anyway. But these work great, and it's a pretty much stock throttle body otherwise, so it plugs right in. No messing around. This is not the original inlet hose for the ZZP box. This is one from Intense Racing, and it definitely seems to be stronger. The ZZP one fell apart on me, and they don't have replacements, so Intense Racing at least has replacement ones. And like I said, I think that's better. Definitely seems to be a lot tougher than that dryer thing they gave from ZZP. And yeah, modular pulley. All that means is you got these screws here, and you can just pop the pulley off and put one on of a different size if you want to swap size. Ugh, talking too much. Alright. Modular pulley, you just unbolt these screws, and you can just throw in any pulley you want. These pulleys are press fit otherwise. You could get press fit ones, and you need like a special tool to yank them on and off, which isn't a huge process itself, but that makes it a little simpler and kind of allows you some leeway in your bodying, because I always say, well, I think I'm not going to do any more, but I end up always doing more, so that's great for me. And it already is set up with extra ribs on the pulley, so if you wanted to run an even wider belt, you can do so. It's a new belt too to match it. The belt is pretty easy to change. You can see they actually use a separate belt. This one just runs right down the harmonic balancer. Very simple to change out. You don't have to mess with the whole damn system. Probably should get myself well, I think it's fine still. It just looks older, Oh yeah, and the size is a 3.5. I was gonna go for a 3.4, but the guys at ZZP recommended a 3.5 for my setup, even though their website says 3.4. So I'll do as they say, especially if it's coming from the guy that does all the tuning on the cars. Like, he knows more. And yeah, it's got a basic generic ZZP tune thrown into it. I'd like to get it on the dyno at their place, just to make sure it's tuned just right for this setup and make sure it's running top notch, because it is a daily, and I still like to have some good reliability and at least okay fuel economy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the engine modifications, at least so far. If I was gonna do anything more, I could consider an EGR delete, but I don't think it's totally necessary, and I'd have to get more information about that, and I think it might be just totally unnecessary to do it. But I would like to change out that rear valve cover. Might get some chrome ones, I don't know. And maybe use my fan spacer kit eventually. But otherwise, if I was going to do more, I think I would have to get the intercooler. Oh, actually, there would be no choice. It's that or get a camshaft or maybe a higher ratio rockers, but an intercooler just would be a better idea overall. And at that point, I'd probably get the ported supercharger housing, Gen 3 one at least, because I heard they perform just as good as a Gen 5 would anyway. And plus I already got one, so just keep it simple. As far as performance goes, it's fast enough for me. It could be a lot faster, but I get a, daily driver. And I got another project car that's been sitting in the garage doing nothing for a while, and I'd like to be able to do things with that eventually again. But for daily driving purposes, it suits the needs pretty well. It gets up to speed no problem. Hardly have to give it any throttle to get up to speed. Works great. Any modifications to the car itself, maybe fix the stereo so it works right. I will have to do something with the suspension. It's going to need new struts before long, and maybe I'll do some, at least a front sway bar maybe, kind of cut down on body roll. I could do a strut tower brace too, but I'm not sure if it's worth it, because the struts are already kind of tied to the firewall. I'll just ask people that run it, see if they can feel a difference. You can see these things are getting really original struts. They just haven't blown up yet. Just run it till it breaks, I guess. But yeah, simple mods. The only really expensive thing I've thrown at this car was a rebuilt transmission. Kind of a thing you have to do. But yeah, really liking the car. Would I recommend buying one? If you're at least semi-competent mechanically, sure. They're cheap. Parts are cheap. Performance parts are cheap. You can go from a basic, really mild build like I have done, really good for daily driving, every day, even winter, to some really powerful builds. I've personally seen one do over 560, or was it, no, I think 543 wheel horsepower on a dyno, and that one was a coupe like mine, but he had a turbo instead of the supercharger, and he had a 5-speed swapped from a Saab, I believe. And there's many others like that that are really ridiculously powerful. Oh, and I do got some half-decent performance tires. But yeah, pretty fun cars. I bought it originally like, I'll get myself a daily driver that's already got enough power to kind of satisfy my needs. Of course, the modding began very shortly after, and you can totally tell the appeal from it. I don't know if you ever watched the Sleepers documentary where the guy has that Buick Regal GS, and he's completely right. These things, you can really open them up for, let's see, ZZP has it's like 600 some, basically for under $700 you can get at least, 40 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much, but that's actually a good bit. And all it is just opening up the exhaust, cold air intake, smaller pulley, and all the supporting mods for it in the tune, and that's it, GM kind of sandbagged them from the factory, because I don't think they wanted them going too much faster than the F bodies, which they're totally capable of doing. Well, yeah, if you think you might want one, go for it. I mean, they're cheap enough as is. You can get a actually already built one that's been well taken care of for a few $1,000s. They're not very valuable, and the parts are out there. In fact, ZZP announced recently that they're going back to the roots with the 3800 platform, so they're still going at it. I think they're making a 4.2 stroker kit for the 3.8 engine. So, and they already have CNC milled aluminum heads for serious power alongside their ported steel stock style heads. So yeah, definitely a lot you can do to these cars, and they can be a blast to drive. And they can be sneaky too. Most people, even today, the memes, the Grand Prix is fast, I'm sure you've seen them all. But they can be. And not for a lot of money either. Not much else to say about it, I guess. Just a decent car.